Captain Jake Morrison watched the stars through the bridge windows of the exploration ship Horizon's Edge. After 3 months in deep space, his crew had finally found something amazing. The ship's sensors had picked up artificial signals from a nearby star system. This meant one thing that changed everything for humanity. They were not alone in the universe. Dr. Lisa Carter sat at her science station, checking the data for the 10th time that morning. She was the ship's expert on alien life, though until now, that had been mostly guesswork and theory. Her hands shook slightly as she looked at the readings. The signals were definitely from intelligent beings who had built machines and ships. Lieutenant Ryan Blake stood at the weapons control station, but his guns were powered down. Captain Morrison had given clear orders about that. This was a peaceful mission to explore and learn, not to fight. Still, Ryan kept his hand near the controls. His military training told him to be ready for anything. Ambassador Helen Wright reviewed her notes about first contact procedures. Earth's government had spent years planning what to do if humans ever met aliens. She had practiced the speeches and studied the protocols, but now that the moment was here, everything felt different. Real aliens were about to meet real humans, and no one knew what would happen. The ship's communications officer suddenly looked up from his station. "Captain, we're getting a message. It's coming from a large ship that just appeared on our sensors." Morrison moved to the center of the bridge. "Put it on the main screen." The image that appeared made everyone go quiet. The alien ship was enormous, easily 10 times bigger than the Horizon's Edge. It was dark and covered with sharp points and weapons. It looked like it was built for war, not exploration. Then the aliens appeared on screen. The creature speaking to them was 12 feet tall and looked like a giant insect. Its body was covered in hard, black armor that seemed to be part of its skin. It had 4 arms, each holding a different weapon. Its head was long and narrow with bright red eyes that seemed to look right through the humans. When it opened its mouth to speak, rows of sharp teeth were visible. Dr. Carter whispered, "Incredible. Look at the bone structure, the muscle development. This is a pure predator species." The alien's voice came through the speakers, deep and threatening. The ship's computer had already started translating the language. "Small creatures," the alien said. "I am War Commander Thrak of the Vorthak Empire. You have entered our space without permission. Your species is weak and tiny. You will tell us where your homeworld is located. You will surrender your ship. You will bow down and accept that the Vorthak are your masters." The bridge crew looked at each other. This was not how Earth's scientists had imagined first contact would go. Ambassador Wright stepped forward and spoke calmly into the communications system. "Greetings, War Commander Thrak. I am Ambassador Helen Wright, representing humanity and the planet Earth. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. We did not know this space belonged to anyone. We apologize for any misunderstanding." The alien's red eyes seemed to get brighter. "Peace? Friendship?" The creature made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded like metal scraping against stone. Weak words from weak creatures. The strong take what they want. The weak serve or die. These are the laws of the universe. Dr. Carter couldn't help herself. Her scientific curiosity was stronger than her fear. "Commander Thrak, could you tell us about your people? Your biology is fascinating. How did your species develop? What is your homeworld like?" The war commander stopped talking and stared at her. Behind him, other Vorthak appeared on screen. They all looked confused. "You ask about our ways?" Thrak said slowly. "You should be begging for your lives. You should be offering us everything you have. Why do you ask questions like you are our equals?" Lieutenant Ryan stepped closer to the captain. "Sir, their ship has weapons pointed at us. A lot of weapons." Captain Morrison nodded but stayed calm. "Commander Thrak, we understand you are powerful. We respect your strength, but we believe different species can help each other. We have knowledge about technology and science that might interest you. Perhaps we can find ways to benefit both our peoples." The aliens on screen started talking to each other in their own language. The computer couldn't translate fast enough to keep up. It was clear they were arguing about something. Finally, Thrak turned back to the humans. You speak of benefits and cooperation. This means you think you have something we want. This means you think you can bargain with the Vorthak Empire. You are either very brave or very stupid. Ambassador Wright spoke again. We hope we can learn from each other. Our species has always believed that meeting new people makes everyone stronger and wiser. Learn? Thrak's voice got louder. The only thing your species needs to learn is obedience. We have conquered 17 different worlds. We have destroyed civilizations that were older and stronger than yours. What makes you think you are special, Doctor? Carter was still taking notes. 17 worlds? How long did that take? What happened to the other species? The war commander looked at her like she was insane. They died or became our slaves. That is what happens to the weak when they meet the strong. That is what will happen to you. Captain Morrison felt the tension on his bridge, but he kept his voice steady. We understand you have great power, Commander. But we ask for time to consider your words. Perhaps our governments could speak together and find a peaceful solution. Peaceful solution? Thrak made that scraping laugh sound again. There is only one solution. You will return to your tiny world. You will tell your leaders that the Vorthak Empire owns this part of space now. You will prepare your people for conquest. We give you one cycle of your star to surrender completely. If you refuse, we will come to your world and take it by force. The alien looked directly at Captain Morrison. Your ships will be destroyed. Your cities will burn. Your people will serve us or die. This is not a threat. This is a promise. We have done this 17 times before. Your species will be number 18. The screen went dark. The alien ship turned and disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving the humans alone with the stars. For a long moment, nobody on the bridge spoke. Then Dr. Carter said quietly, "They really don't understand us at all, do they?" Ambassador Wright shook her head. "And we don't understand them either. They think the universe only works one way." Captain Morrison looked at his crew. "Set course. For Earth. Maximum speed. We need to get home and tell everyone what we just learned. The galaxy is a much more dangerous place than we thought." As the horizon's edge jumped to light speed, none of the humans realized something important. The Vorthak had made the same mistake they always made. They had looked at humanity and seen just another weak species to conquer. They had no idea what humans were really capable of when they were pushed into a corner. The galaxy's most feared species had just given humanity a declaration of war, and they had absolutely no idea what they had just started. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center on Earth, watching the reports come in from across human space. The Horizon's Edge had returned home 3 weeks ago with news that changed everything. Humans were no longer alone in the universe, and their new neighbors wanted to destroy them. General Paul Martinez pointed at the tactical display showing Earth's defenses. "We've moved all available ships to defensive positions around our major colonies. But Kate, we're talking about a species that has conquered 17 worlds. Our fleet is designed for exploration, not war." Admiral Sullivan nodded grimly. "How long do we have?" Captain Morrison's crew estimated they have about 6 months before the deadline. The Vorthak gave us 1 year, but we don't know how they measure time. Dr. Alex Thompson looked up from his research station. As Earth's top expert on alien psychology, he had been studying every detail about the Vorthak encounter. "Admiral, I need to show you something important. The way these aliens think is completely different from us." He put his notes on the main screen. "Look at their behavior during first contact. They immediately demanded submission. They talked about conquest and slavery like it was normal. They couldn't understand why we asked questions instead of begging for mercy." Commander Nicole Davis, head of Earth's intelligence services, joined the conversation. "My teams have been analyzing the alien ship's technology. They're advanced, but not impossibly so. What worries me is their attitude. They act like they've never lost a fight." Dr. Thompson continued his explanation. "That's exactly right. I think their entire society is built on one simple idea. The strong rule the weak. They probably can't imagine any other way for the universe to work." Admiral Sullivan studied the data. "So when we tried to be diplomatic, they thought we were either stupid or lying." Worse than that, Thompson said. I think they believe we're so weak that we don't even understand we're weak. To them, our politeness probably looked like a joke. General Martinez walked over to another screen showing human military assets. We've been working on something. Show them, Nicole. Commander Davis activated a new display. We've been building a network of defense platforms around Earth and our colonies. But more importantly, we've been studying Vorthak technology from the sensor readings Captain Morrison brought back. The screen showed detailed analysis of the alien warship. Their weapons are powerful, but they're designed for direct confrontation. Big ships, big guns, straightforward attacks. They probably fight other species the same way they fought the first 16. Dr. Thompson pointed to his psychological analysis. That fits their thinking perfectly. They walk up to a species, show overwhelming force, and demand surrender. If the species fights back, they crush them with superior firepower. Simple and effective. Admiral Sullivan asked, "But what if we don't fight the way they expect?" "That's what we're hoping to find out," Commander Davis replied. "We've been developing new tactics based on their psychological profile. If they can only think in terms of strong versus weak, they might not know how to handle something unexpected." General Martinez brought up another screen. "We've also been reaching out to our own people differently. Instead of creating panic, we're asking for volunteers. Engineers, scientists, pilots, soldiers. Everyone who wants to help defend humanity." "How are people responding?" Admiral Sullivan asked. "Better than we hoped," Davis answered. "When we explain the situation honestly, most people don't get scared. They get determined. Humans don't like being told they have no choice." Dr. Thompson smiled for the first time in weeks. "That's another thing the Vorthak don't understand about us. They think fear makes people obedient. But humans often get more dangerous when they're afraid for their families." Admiral Sullivan looked at the star charts showing Vorthak space. "Have we tried to contact them again?" "Several times," General Martinez replied. "Every message gets the same response. Submit or be destroyed. They won't negotiate, won't discuss terms, won't even explain what submission means exactly." Commander Davis added, "We did intercept some of their communications, though. They're spreading word about us throughout their empire. They're calling us the amusing new species that thinks politeness will save them." "They're laughing at us?" Admiral Sullivan asked. "Worse. They're using us as an example to other species about what happens when you don't immediately surrender to Vorthak power." Dr. Thompson studied the intercepted messages. "This is actually valuable information. It confirms they see us as completely harmless. They're so confident that they're not even taking basic precautions." "What do you mean?" the Admiral asked. "They're treating this like a training exercise. They probably plan to use our conquest as practice for their younger warriors. They want other species to watch us get destroyed as a lesson in Vorthak superiority." General Martinez pulled up deployment charts. "Then we give them a lesson they're not expecting. Our fleets are moving into position, but not where they think they should be." Commander Davis explained their strategy. "Instead of massing our forces around Earth like they expect, we're spreading out. Small groups, mobile tactics, hit and run. Attacks. Force them to chase us instead of letting them choose the battlefield." Admiral Sullivan looked at her team. "This is the biggest gamble in human history. We're betting that a species who has conquered 17 worlds has never faced an enemy like us. The alternative is surrender," Dr. Thompson said quietly. "And based on what happened to those other 17 species, surrender means extinction." "There's something else," Commander Davis said. "We've been monitoring Vorthak military exercises near their border. They're practicing attacks on planetary surfaces. Complete destruction, no attempt to preserve anything. They're not planning to rule us," General Martinez realized. "They're planning to replace us." Admiral Sullivan felt a cold anger building inside her. "Then they've made a mistake. They think they're hunting sheep, but they're actually poking a sleeping bear." Dr. Thompson looked at the timeline again. "We have maybe 4 months before they arrive. That's not much time to prepare for the biggest war in human history." "It's enough," Admiral Sullivan said firmly. Humans have always done their best work when everything was on the line. Send messages to all colonies, all ships, all military units. Tell them the truth about what we're facing. What should the message say? General Martinez asked. Admiral Sullivan looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, an alien empire was preparing to destroy everything humanity had built. Tell them that someone made a very big mistake. They thought humans would be easy to conquer. They thought we would give up without a fight. They thought wrong. Commander Davis smiled grimly. And what are we going to do about it? We're going to show them what happens when you threaten a species that refuses to stay down. We're going to give them a war they never expected from an enemy they never understood. The command center began buzzing with activity as Earth prepared for its first interstellar war. None of them knew if they could win, but all of them knew they had to try. Humanity's greatest test was coming, and they would face it the only way they knew how. Together, determined, and completely unwilling to give up without a fight. War Commander Thrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human star system grow larger on the viewing screen. Behind him, 12 massive Vorthak warships moved in perfect formation. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a planet's surface completely. This will be easier than the conquest of the Crystal Builders, Thrak told his officers. Those creatures at least tried to fight back properly. These humans will probably surrender the moment they see our fleet. His second-in-command, war leader, Vex checked the tactical displays. Commander, our scouts report unusual movement in the system. The human ships are not gathered around their homeworld as expected. Thrak made the scraping sound that passed for Vorthak laughter. They are probably running away. Fear makes weak species do foolish things. We will hunt them down after we claim their planet. Captain Sam Rodriguez sat in the cockpit of his fighter ship, hidden behind an asteroid field at the edge of the solar system. Around him, 40 other human pilots waited in complete silence. Their ships were small compared to the Vorthak giants, but they were fast and hard to detect. Phoenix Squadron, this is Rodriguez, he whispered into his radio. Enemy fleet is moving toward Earth as predicted. Stay hidden until my signal. On Earth, Chief Engineer Maria Collins watched the approaching enemy fleet on her sensors. She sat in a command bunker deep underground, surrounded by screens showing defensive systems across the planet. All planetary defense grids are ready, she reported to Admiral Sullivan. But Admiral, their ships are so big. Our weapons might not be able to damage them seriously. That's not the plan, Maria, Sullivan replied calmly. We're not trying to destroy them in direct combat. We're trying to confuse them. The Vorthak fleet entered the outer solar system, expecting to find human ships arranged for a traditional battle. Instead, they found nothing but empty space and a few small objects that barely registered on their sensors. Where are their defensive fleets? War Leader Vex asked, confusion clear in his voice. Hiding like cowards, Thrak replied. But he sounded less confident than before. Begin scanning for their ships. They must be somewhere. Commander Tyler Brooks crouched inside a maintenance shaft on one of the Vorthak ships. He and his team had been waiting there for 2 hours, ever since their stealth ship had attached itself to the alien vessel's hull. The Vorthak had such confidence in their superiority that they barely bothered with security sensors. Team Alpha is in position, Brooks whispered into his radio. We're near their main power systems. Similar reports came from 5 other boarding teams scattered across the Vorthak fleet. The aliens had never imagined that anyone would be crazy enough to board their ships during battle. Dr. Rachel Stone watched the battle develop from the war room on Earth. As the chief military strategist, she had spent months studying Vorthak, psychology, and developing tactics that would exploit their rigid thinking. They're doing exactly what we predicted, she told Admiral Sullivan. They're trying to find our main fleet so they can destroy it in one big battle. They can't understand why we won't fight them properly. The Vorthak began scanning the asteroid fields, looking for hidden human ships. They found Captain Rodriguez's fighters, but by then it was too late. Phoenix Squadron, attack, Rodriguez shouted into his radio. 40 small human fighters suddenly burst from hiding and swarmed around the Vorthak ships like angry insects. They were too small and fast for the big alien weapons to target effectively. What is this? Thraki roared as explosions bloomed around his ship. Why do they attack with such tiny vessels? Where are their real warships? The human fighters weren't trying to destroy the Vorthak ships. Instead, they targeted sensors, communication arrays, and weapon systems. Each fighter carried special weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. War Leader Vex tried to coordinate a response, but his communications were being jammed by the attacking fighters. Commander, we cannot contact 3 of our ships. Our sensor arrays are being damaged faster than we can repair them. At the same time, Commander Brooks and his boarding teams began their work inside the Vorthak ships. Instead of setting off explosives, they carefully sabotaged key systems and planted listening devices. Team Alpha has disabled their main navigation computer, Brooks reported. They won't be able to coordinate fleet movements for at least an hour. Other teams reported similar successes. Life support systems were set to malfunction gradually. Weapon targeting computers were given false information. Communication systems were programmed to broadcast the wrong messages. The Vorthak crews ran through their ships, trying to fix problems that seemed to appear everywhere at once. They had never faced an enemy that fought from inside their own vessels. "This is not how warfare works," Thrak screamed at his officers. "They are supposed to meet us in honorable combat. They are supposed to either surrender or fight us properly." Chief Engineer Collins activated Earth's next surprise. Hidden defense platforms throughout the solar system suddenly powered up and began firing. But instead of trying to destroy the Vorthak ships, they fired special electromagnetic pulses designed to disrupt alien electronics. "Their ships are going dark one by one," Collins reported. "Navigation, communications, even basic life support are failing." Dr. Stone watched the Vorthak fleet struggle with growing satisfaction. They built their entire military around the idea that bigger weapons and stronger ships always win. They never considered that their enemies might be smarter instead of stronger. The most shocking moment came when the Vorthak tried to retreat. 3 of their ships had been completely disabled by the boarding teams. 2 others were flying blind because of sensor damage. The rest were trying to escape the swarm of human fighters that continued to attack them. But Captain Rodriguez had one more surprise waiting for them. "Phoenix Squadron, execute capture protocol," he ordered. The human fighters suddenly changed tactics. Instead of continuing their attacks, they began using tractor beams and magnetic clamps to attach themselves to the Vorthak ships. Then they activated powerful jamming devices that completely cut off the aliens from any outside communication. War Commander Thrak found himself trapped on his own ship, unable to contact his fleet, unable to navigate properly, and surrounded by an enemy he couldn't understand. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his crew. "We are the strongest species in the galaxy. We have the biggest ships and the most powerful weapons. How are these tiny creatures defeating us?" War Leader Vex had no answer. Like all Vorthak, he had been taught that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. The idea that intelligence, creativity, and cooperation could overcome raw power was completely beyond his understanding. On Earth, Admiral Sullivan received reports from across the battle zone. The entire Vorthak fleet was either disabled, captured, or fleeing in confusion. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, and only a few fighters had been damaged. "Phase 1 is complete," she announced to her staff. "Now comes the hard part. We need to figure out how to talk to them." Dr. Stone looked at the tactical display showing 12 mighty Vorthak warships rendered helpless by an enemy they had completely underestimated. "I think," she said quietly, "we just taught the galaxy's most feared species their first lesson about humanity. We don't fight the way they expect us to fight." The real war was just beginning, but humanity had sent a clear message to the Vorthak Empire. Earth's children were not going to be conquest number 18. Captain Linda Foster stood on the bridge of her diplomatic ship as it approached the Zilani homeworld. The Zilani were one of 12 species that the Vorthak Empire had forced into slavery over the past 1,000 years. News of humanity's victory over the Vorthak fleet had spread quickly across the galaxy. "Captain," her communications officer said, "we're receiving a message from the planet. They want to know if the reports about the Vorthak defeat are really true." Foster smiled. "Tell them yes, and ask if we can meet with their leaders. We have a proposal that might interest them." On Earth, Commander Steve Parker sat across from a captured Vorthak warrior in a comfortable room that looked nothing like a prison cell. The alien, who called himself Warrior Kell, had been injured during the battle and was now recovering in a human medical facility. "I do not understand," Kell said, his translated voice filled with confusion. "Why do you heal my wounds? Why do you give me food and comfort? I am your enemy." Parker leaned forward. "Because you're hurt, and we help people who are hurt. It's what we do." "But I would have killed you if I could," Kell insisted. "I was coming to destroy your world and enslave your people. Why do you show me kindness?" "Maybe because you didn't have a choice," Parker replied. "From what we've learned about your society, you were taught from birth that conquest was the only way to survive. Is that right?" Kell's red eyes dimmed with what might have been sadness. "The strong survive. The weak serve or die. This is the way of all things. What if we told you there was another way?" Dr. Jennifer Walsh worked late into the night studying recordings of Vorthak communications that had been intercepted during the battle. As Earth's expert on alien cultures, she was trying to understand how an entire species could become so focused on domination. "Admiral Sullivan," she called over the intercom. "I think I've found something important." Admiral Sullivan entered the research lab a few minutes later. "What did you discover?" Dr. Walsh pointed to brain scan images on her screen. "We've been studying the Vorthak prisoners with their permission. Look at this. Their brains are structured differently from ours, in the areas that handle social cooperation and empathy." "You mean they can't feel compassion?" "Not exactly. The capacity is there, but it's been suppressed. I think their society has spent generations training these traits out of their people. They've literally bred themselves to be perfect predators." Sullivan studied the data. "Can it be reversed?" "Maybe." Warrior Kell has been showing signs of change since Commander Parker started talking with him. When we treat him with kindness, his brain activity in those suppressed areas increases. Meanwhile, Admiral Ben Crawford was coordinating humanity's most ambitious military operation yet. Instead of attacking Vorthak territory directly, human fleets were moving to liberate the worlds that the Vorthak had conquered. "Status report from all task forces," Crawford called out to his command staff. "Task Force Alpha has reached the Moran system," came the first response. "The Vorthak garrison was small and retreated when they saw our ships approaching. The Moran way. People are free." Task Force Beta reports similar success at the Quell colony, another officer announced. "The local Vorthak forces surrendered without a fight." Crawford smiled grimly. "Apparently word is spreading that humans don't fight like other species. The Vorthak garrisons don't know how to handle us." Captain Foster found herself in the great council chamber of the Zalani, surrounded by alien leaders who looked like tall, graceful beings with silver skin and large, intelligent eyes. For 300 years, they had been forced to serve the Vorthak Empire. "You offer us freedom," the Zalani Prime Minister said. "But what do you want in return?" "No species gives such gifts without expecting payment." "We want partnership," Foster replied honestly. "We want to learn from you, and we hope you can learn from us. We want to build something better than what the Vorthak created." The Zalani leaders looked at each other with expressions of amazement. "You truly expect nothing else? No tribute, no servitude, no surrender of our independence?" "We expect you to remain free," Foster said firmly. "Free peoples make better friends than slaves." Back on the captured Vorthak flagship, Commander Parker was having his most important conversation yet with Warrior Kell. "Tell me about your homeworld," Parker said. "What was it like before your people became conquerors?" Kell was quiet for a long time. "I do not remember stories of before. We are taught that the Vorthak have always been warriors. That conquest is our nature. But every species had to start somewhere. Your people must have had families, art, culture, things they loved besides fighting." For the first time since his capture, Kell showed something other than confusion or anger. There are old songs, forbidden songs that some warriors sing when they think no one can hear. Songs about green forests and peaceful valleys. Parker felt excitement building. Your people weren't always warriors. Something changed them, Doctor. Walsh's research was revealing more secrets about Vorthak history. Deep in their captured databases, she found records that the Vorthak themselves had forgotten. Admiral, you need to see this, she called to Sullivan. I found historical records. From over 2,000 years ago, the Vorthak weren't always conquerors. The ancient files showed a very different picture. The early Vorthak had been a peaceful species that lived in harmony with their environment. They had art, music, philosophy, and science. What happened to them? Sullivan asked. War, Walsh replied sadly. Their planet was attacked by another species called the Devourers. The Vorthak barely survived, but the experience changed them completely. They decided that the only way to be safe was to be stronger than everyone else. So they turned themselves into the thing that had nearly destroyed them. Exactly. And over thousands of years they forgot why they started. Conquest became their entire identity. Admiral Crawford received a message that changed everything. The Vorthak High Command was requesting a meeting, not demanding surrender or threatening destruction. Actually requesting negotiations. They want to talk? Sullivan asked when Crawford brought her the news. More than that. They're asking for our terms. 3 more of their fleets have been defeated by our liberation forces. Their tributary species are rebelling everywhere. Their entire empire is falling apart. Captain Foster's diplomatic mission was succeeding beyond all expectations. The Zilani had agreed to form an alliance with humanity. So had the Moran, the Quell, and 5 other liberated species. We are creating something that has never existed before, the Zilani Prime Minister told her. An alliance of equals where no species rules over others. The Vorthak will not understand this, warned a Miran representative. They only know dominance and submission. Then we'll teach them, Foster replied. Commander Parker is all ready, showing that individual Vorthak can change. Maybe their whole species can learn a different way to live. The breakthrough came when Warrior Kell asked Commander Parker a question that no Vorthak had ever asked before. If we stopped conquering other worlds, Kell said hesitantly. If we tried to live peacefully, would your people help us learn how? Parker felt tears in his eyes. Kell, that's all we've wanted from the beginning. We never wanted to be your enemies. We wanted to be your friends. The warrior looked at him with something that might have been hope. I do not know if my people can change. We have been warriors for so long. You're changing right now, Parker pointed out. If you can do it, others can too. Admiral Sullivan stood in the command center looking at reports from across the galaxy. The Vorthak Empire was collapsing, but not through destruction. It was transforming. Status report, she called to her staff. 16 former Vorthak worlds have declared independence, Crawford reported. 8 Vorthak fleet commanders have requested asylum with us. The High Command is asking for a complete ceasefire. Dr. Walsh looked up from her research. Admiral, I think we're seeing something unprecedented. An entire galactic empire is choosing to change rather than fight to the death. Sullivan nodded. Because we gave them a choice they never had before. We showed them that strength doesn't have to mean conquest. The galaxy's most feared species was learning that the most dangerous enemy they could face wasn't stronger predators. It was a species that refused to be predators at all. Humanity was teaching the Vorthak that there was a better way to live, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the Vorthak were listening. President Carol Hughes walked slowly through the corridors of the neutral space station, where the most important meeting in galactic history was about to take place. Behind her walked Admiral Sullivan, Dr. Walsh, and Commander Parker. Ahead of them waited Hierarch Zekthal, the supreme leader of what remained of the Vorthak Empire. The meeting room was simple and comfortable, with chairs arranged in a circle rather than across from each other. President Hughes had insisted on this arrangement. She wanted cooperation, not confrontation. Hierarch Zekthal entered the room, and humans saw the leader of the Vorthak for the first time. He was even larger than the warriors they had captured, standing nearly 14 feet tall. His armor was covered with symbols that probably showed his victories in battle, but his red eyes showed something the humans had never seen in a Vorthak before. Uncertainty. President Hughes, Zekthal said in his deep voice. I come to understand what you want from my people. Hughes gestured to a specially built chair. Please sit. We have much to discuss. For several minutes, the two leaders looked at each other in silence. Finally, Hughes spoke. Hierarch, we don't want anything from your people except peace. We want to help you find a new way to live. Zekthal's confusion was obvious. You have defeated our fleets. You have freed our subject worlds. You have turned our own warriors against us. Yet you offer help instead of demanding surrender. I do not understand this. Commander Parker leaned forward. Hierarch, I've been working with one of your warriors, Kel. He's learned that there are other ways to be strong besides conquest. Your people can be strong by building instead of destroying. Impossible, Zekthal said, but his voice lacked conviction. The Vorthak survive by being the strongest. If we are not the strongest, we will be destroyed by others. Dr. Walsh activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Hierarch, look at what's happening. Your former subjects aren't trying to destroy you. They're building a new alliance based on cooperation. They want to invite reformed Vorthak to join them. The display showed dozens of worlds working together, sharing technology and resources, helping each other solve problems. It was everything the Vorthak Empire had never been. This is not natural, Zekthal insisted. Species compete. The strong survive. The weak are consumed. President Hughes stood up and walked to the window looking out at the stars. Hierarch, what if I told you that your people weren't always conquerors? What if there was a time when the Vorthak built beautiful things and lived in peace? Zekthal's entire body went rigid. That is forbidden knowledge. Those are lies told by the weak to make us soft. Dr. Walsh showed him the ancient Vorthak records they had discovered. These are your own historical files, Hierarch. 2000 years ago, your people were artists and scientists. They only became warriors after they were nearly destroyed by another species. For the first time in his life, Zekthal looked at proof that everything he had been taught was incomplete. The record showed Vorthak cities full of music and art. They showed Vorthak scientists making discoveries that helped other species. They showed a civilization that had been beautiful before it became terrible. If this is true, he said slowly, then everything we have done was born from fear, Hughes said gently. Your people were hurt badly, and they decided that hurting others first was the only way to stay safe. But that war ended 2,000 years ago. You've been fighting ghosts. Admiral Sullivan spoke for the first time. Hierarch, we know your empire is falling apart. Your fleets are surrendering or joining us. Your subject worlds are free. But we're not here to gloat. We're here to offer you something better. What could you possibly offer us? A chance to be the people you were meant to be, Hughes replied. A chance to build instead of destroy. A chance to be remembered for creation instead of conquest. Captain Danny Price floated in the zero-gravity docking bay of the space station Unity, watching human and Vorthak engineers work side by side to install new navigation systems. 6 months ago, this would have been impossible. Now it was becoming normal. The Unity was the first ship crewed by both humans and reformed Vorthak. It had taken months of careful work to build trust between the two species, but the results were amazing. Vorthak engineering combined with human creativity was producing technology neither species could have developed alone. Captain Price came a voice over the intercom. It was Kel, the former Vorthak warrior who had become the ship's cultural liaison. We are ready for departure. Price smiled as he floated toward the bridge. When he got there, he found humans and Vorthak working together at control stations. The sight still amazed him sometimes. All systems are ready, Captain, reported Chief Engineer Maria Collins, who now worked with a team of both human and Vorthak technicians. Excellent. Set course for the Andromeda probe project. Dr. Amy Richardson stood in her office on Earth, looking at reports from the new Galactic Cultural Exchange Program. As its director, she oversaw hundreds of projects where different species learned from each other. The results are incredible, she told President Hughes over the video call. Former Vorthak colonies are teaching us biotechnology that's centuries ahead of ours. In return, we're helping them develop art and music programs they haven't had for generations. What about the Vorthak themselves? Hughes asked. Slower progress, but steady. About 30% of their population has joined the cultural exchange. The rest are still suspicious, but they're watching what happens to the ones who do participate. And what's happening to them? Richardson smiled. They're remembering how to be happy. Back on the neutral station, Hierarch Zekthal was struggling with the biggest decision in Vorthak history. You ask me to surrender everything my people have built, he said to President Hughes. I'm asking you to surrender everything that's kept your people from being truly great. Hughes replied, your warriors could become explorers, your weapons experts could become engineers, your tactical genius could be used to solve problems instead of creating them. Commander Parker showed him video messages from Vorthak, who had already made the change. Former warriors were learning to be teachers, doctors, scientists. They looked different somehow. Lighter, happier. If we do this, Zekthal said slowly, if we try to change, what happens if we fail? What happens if we cannot learn to be peaceful? Then we help you try again, Hughes said simply. That's what friends do. The word friends seemed to hit Zekthal like a physical blow. Friends? You would call the Vorthak friends after everything we have done? We would call you friends because of everything you could become. Dr. Walsh showed him one final piece of information. Hierarch, we've discovered that your people's genetic modifications can be reversed. The suppression of empathy and cooperation that was bred into your species can be undone. Your children could grow up feeling the full range of emotions that your ancestors felt. Zekthal looked at the data for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. My ancestors sang songs about green valleys and peaceful forests. I remember my grandmother humming them when she thought no one could hear. They can sing those songs again, Hughes said softly. The hierarch stood up slowly and looked out at the stars. If we do this, the Vorthak Empire ends forever. But the Vorthak people begin again, Admiral Sullivan pointed out. Zekthal turned back to the humans. You have shown us that strength comes from creation, not destruction. You have proven that the strong can choose to protect the weak instead of conquering them. You have given us hope for something we thought was impossible. He paused, making a decision that would change the galaxy forever. The Vorthak accept your offer of friendship. We will try to learn your ways. President Hughes stood and extended her hand to the former emperor of the galaxy's most feared species. Welcome to the Alliance, friend. As they shook hands, both leaders knew they were beginning something unprecedented in galactic history. The most feared predators in the galaxy had chosen to become something better. They had chosen to become what they were always meant to be. And in the depths of space, the ship Unity continued its mission to explore unknown regions, crewed by humans and Vorthak working together toward a future neither species could have imagined alone. The galaxy's most feared species had learned that the most dangerous thing they could encounter wasn't a stronger predator. It was a species that refused to be predators at all. And in learning that lesson, they had found their way home to who they really were.